So I think an age-old question for all readers out there is, how do you beat a reading slump? And I think for me, it's mood reading. So that's what we're gonna be doing in today's vlog. You guys are gonna join me as I try and get out of a reading slump. And when I say mood reading, it is like the purest form of that. Like whatever my mood is what we're picking up. I really did not have a set TBR going into this video, which you guys will see. But when I'm in a reading slump, I'm also usually in a content slump, which I'll also talk about in this video. So this one was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie, this one was a struggle. Hopefully this vlog will help you if you're in a reading slump. Just know that you don't always have to be reading all the time. Sometimes it's okay to take a break, and your brain probably needs it. But to start this video off, I started with Bright Young Woman. This was a book that I ended up hauling as part of my birthday haul video. I do a book haul for my birthday every year, so if you haven't watched that, go and make sure you check that out after this video. And this one was really calling to me at the time because I feel like mystery thrillers tend to get me out of reading slumps pretty quickly, and I heard a lot of good things about this in the end of 2023. A lot of people had this on their top 10 books of the year list. But going into this, I knew it was like a fictionalized version of America's first famous serial killer, so I'll let you take a guess on who that's about. And I know this just kind of followed a sorority that was a victim of the serial killer and a massacre that occurred there. I will stop talking now and we'll just see how the vlog goes. Yeah, let's just get into it. I'm about 100 pages into Bright Young Women, and so far we're really just getting like the setup and the premise for the story. So we meet a young girl named Pamela who is the president of a sorority in Florida, and it's a pretty normal night for them until she like wakes up in the middle of the night, or she goes downstairs and she realizes that something is kind of amiss in the house. And turns out there's been an attack on a few of the girls that are living in the sorority house. 2 of them end up dying, and there's some like mystery and confusion around what happened because all these girls in the house and no one really heard anything while all of this was going on. We're kind of following how the police are handling the situation. We're getting Pamela's point of view as she's trying to like keep herself together as the sorority president. She kind of views herself as like, oh, I'm in charge. I was responsible for these girls, so I'm the one that has to like make the phone calls to the parents and make sure, we're viewed a certain way as this sorority, which to me is like a really interesting like take on this. And it's really interesting to kind of see how Pamela is like coping with everything that's going on. And then on top of that, so we have Pamela's story, but then we also meet some other characters via Pamela, but then we get the POV of a different girl that allegedly was also murdered by the same man who murdered the girls in the sorority house. And I don't know too much about the new POV that we have gotten so far, but I'm interested to see kind of where that goes and how like Pamela and her connect in the future. And like there's a character that's kind of connecting these 2 girls outside of the alleged like serial killer. I can already tell that the cops and the police and the way that this is going to be handled is going to piss me off. The same way that most actual true crime things piss me off, right? And I say that I enjoy true crime, and I don't know if enjoy is the right word. I feel for me it's important to learn the history of a lot of things that have happened in the world, especially when it comes to like crime and things like that, just so that I'm kind of knowledgeable about it. I also think it's interesting like how people cope with different things, and that's kind of where my interest in true crime comes from. So I feel like this book is going to touch on that a bit. So yeah, enjoying this so far. I'm kind of tandem reading this via physical and audio. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on where I end up with this. Yeah, So it's been a while since we've talked. This reading slump is really kicking my butt. So much has happened since I've last talked to you guys. One of them is that I've been watching my parents' dog. It's a Chihuahua named Daddy. Don't ask me about the name, okay? We did not name him. But Daddy's been staying with me for the past like week and a half, so we've been having our own little adventure. Daddy, what do you want? Do you want some love and what? You guys are now seeing my view of what I'm seeing. Oh, you just missed me today. Oh. You just missed me today. But I've also done things like go to New Mexico and visit some friends. We ended up going to White Sands National Park. We went hiking. We did some shopping and I got to see some really unique bookstores. I also went to a beautiful spring event where we did some yoga and we did some floral arrangements. And whenever I'm in a reading slump, I'm also in a content slump. So I wasn't a really good like vlogger this past couple of weeks either to show you guys all of that in all its splendor. And so one of the reasons I'm finally picking up a camera is because I finally finished Bright Young Women, and good news, I did enjoy it, even though it did take me 3 weeks to read. And so I really enjoyed all of the perspectives in the book. I think it gives a really good insight into how crimes not only impact the victim, but it impacts other people in their lives as well. Even outside of family, it can affect friends. It can impact anybody who witnessed the crime and has to testify. And while this was technically fiction, I feel like it did touch on some very real ways of how our justice system works, how some courts almost re-victimize people who are testifying, how our society glamorizes serial killers a lot of the time. And you know, a lot of the times with like mystery and thriller books, it's easy to separate yourself from the story sometimes because you know it's fiction, you know this didn't actually happen. No matter how close the parallels to reality are, you can always be like, well, this is fiction. And while this was a fiction book, because this was a one-to-one to an infamous serial killer, it did hit a little differently and it was a little harder to separate myself from like the fiction idea of the story, especially towards the end. It even said like, oh, he was portrayed by Zac Efron in a remake movie of the case. And you're like, yep. But I feel like I just really love the way that it actually focused on the victims instead of glamorizing the serial killer. And so in the book, they actually never say the serial killer's name. He's always referred to as the defendant, which I really enjoyed because I feel like a lot of times people don't remember the victims' names, but they'll remember the serial killer's name. And so overall, I think this was a really well done book. I think if I had read this book at any other time, I would be giving it a 5-star. But I think because there was so much time in between each time I sat down to read the book, it just didn't have like the same impact that it would have if I was reading it when I wasn't in a reading slump. But I'm still giving it 4 stars. I think if you like mystery thriller books or you like true crime, I would definitely recommend this book, and I can definitely see why this was a favorite of a lot of people's in the past year. So yeah, I'm glad that I finally finished it. And so next up, I was going through my shelves and like my TBR cart to see what I wanted to read next. However, I decided to go on to my Libro FM because I have about 150 audiobooks on there that I need to read, and I'm about to go on another trip. So I'm going to go drop Daddy off back at my parents' house, and then I'm going to Fredericksburg with a few friends. They have a bunch of wineries there, so we're just going to spend the weekend drinking some wine. But my total drive time to drop Daddy off and to get to Fredericksburg and then to come back home is about 8 hours. So I decided to pick up an audiobook so that I can listen and hopefully finish something on my drive. And so I was scrubbing through my Libro and I decided to pick up Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. So I've never read anything by this author, and by the time that you guys see this video, this book will have released. And so I'm excited to get into this one. Reading the synopsis, it's essentially about these like estranged siblings who one parent is dead, one parent is missing. And so when they go to clean out their parents' house, they find a videotape that apparently looks like their parents are killing someone. And when I was reading that synopsis, it reminded me of a Black Mirror episode. And so if you watch Black Mirror, there's an episode called Lock Henry where that synopsis immediately reminded me of that Black Mirror episode. I have listened to the first chapter and it definitely kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger in that first chapter. It definitely makes you intrigued to want to read more. So I'm excited to listen to that. But when I said we're going to drop daddy off, I meant like right now. And I still need to pack. So we're gonna do all that and then we're gonna head on over to my parents' house. Hopefully I remember to film this weekend. I'm gonna do my best. I've made it to Fredericksburg. I'm the first person of my group that has arrived. So I figured I'd give you guys a little update because I did get about 50% of the way through Home is Where the Bodies Are on my drive here. And I just want to say that I feel like I am so intrigued about like where this story is going to go. So there are 3 estranged siblings. One of the siblings is sitting with their dying mother, and right before she dies, the mother utters some words that kind of just puts the daughter into a frenzy. But from there, we kind of learn about the relationship between our main character and her siblings and her parents, and just kind of like their family dynamic, especially after the mother dies and all of the siblings come back and they're together. But while they are cleaning up their mother's house, they find a videotape that has a dead body on it. And it just opens up a lot more questions about the kid's mom. It opens up more questions about their missing father. And I feel like the way that the story is being told, I feel like there is more to it. And there is kind of like a additional mystery element to it. And I'll just say that there is one sibling that I really don't trust. Like, there is something about this sibling that's throwing me off. And so I don't know if that's on purpose. But there's also another character that just got introduced that is someone from one of the characters' past. And to be honest, I don't know if this character is being introduced just for an added layer of like background, or if this character has something to do with it. So I don't know. I'm feeling intrigued. My mom just called me. She watches my location, and so she could tell that I was close, and so she just called to see if I made it to the Airbnb. So we booked an Airbnb, but then I rolled up and it's like next to an RV park, and we're definitely not staying in an RV, so I'm not sure. So I mean, it's still light out, so if I'm gonna do any type of exploring, it probably needs to be now, because I think the other girls are still like 45 minutes out. So fun for me, but let's go see. Go walk around, and I thought the wagons that were out here were just like part of the decor of this area. And so I started to go up to the steps, and then I saw like the side of the like fabric move, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's people in there. And then I saw beds, and then I realized on the sign that those are actually other Airbnbs. So like, I guess you can Airbnb one of the wagons and sleep in there. But I'm glad I saw it before I actually made facial contact with someone, because I was really about to go in there and just open the door like it was part of a museum or something. But glad I avoided a very awkward situation. I was gonna sit out here and listen to my audiobook for a little while I waited on the rest of the girls, but it's a little humid out here, and your girl just got a silk press, so we're going back inside. I am back from Fredericksburg. I'm back from drinking a lot of wine. But of course, I had to bring some back. I feel like that's how they get you. They get you a little tipsy, they get you feeling good, and then they're like, do you want to sign up for a membership for a place that you don't even live? And I'm like, absolutely, that sounds like a fantastic idea. But I felt like it was worth it because you can't get this wine anywhere else other than this vineyard if you have a membership. So anyways, I got 2 bottles of this port, and then I got a bottle of white wine, Avognier, I think is how you pronounce it. And we got to taste these while we were at the vineyard, and they were both delicious. So decided to get those, but I will be canceling my membership after the first month because sober me is a little smarter than wine tipsy me. But on my drive home, I did finish Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. So this does come out April 30th, which I mentioned you guys will probably be seeing this after April 30th. So if this book sounds interesting to you, make sure you go pick it up. But I'm gonna give it a 3.25. I actually am gonna have to edit the clips before this because I feel like my guess may actually be a spoiler, because for once I guessed the right person. And I kind of guessed like how the story went and like the revelations that happened. Like I kind of could all guess that almost from like the first 2 or 3 chapters of the book. However, I still feel like even though the story wasn't shocking, I still think it was well done, and I was still intrigued the entire time, and I feel like the pacing of the book really made me want to keep reading. Okay, so the angle of this may be a little different for a second because I finished filming and then I realized I didn't really give like a good review of the book other than it was okay. So I've given an overview of what this book is about already, but this story is written in multiple perspectives. So we actually get the perspectives of the 3 estranged siblings that come back together once their mother dies. All of these characters to me are hard to like at certain points in time, which kind of lends to some skepticism around all of them about like their intentions with like their mom's estate, things that have happened in the past that are coming up. Everybody seems a little suspicious at times, especially since there is this kind of air around like what were their parents hiding when their dad went missing, and then after their mom died, like what actually happened in 1999, which was like 16 years in the past. Like what were their parents hiding? Why was there a body on that tape? We do learn like who that body was, the connection to the family, which again just kind of adds more confusion around what their parents were hiding. So that was really interesting, but I will say that my favorite perspective we got was actually of their mom back in 1999 when all of this was happening. And sometimes I really hate like trying to review like mystery thrillers, because I feel like sometimes almost everything I say will be a spoiler, and I don't want that, especially if you guys are gonna go in reading it, and especially because this book is a new release, so I don't want to give anything away. But it's also hard to like describe the book and help you guys figure out if you're interested in it without giving some type of full synopsis and like review of the book. So yeah, this is me trying to review a book. Hopefully that gives you the information that you need to decide if you want to read it or not. And so I thought I had an idea of what book I was going to be reading next. So I was going to decide between My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing or A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. And I was leaning towards My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing just because my Libby hold just came through for the audiobook for this. However, I was scrolling through my Libro FM books because, as I mentioned before, I have over like 100 unread Libro FM audiobooks, and I need to get through some of them. But another new release that stood out to me is Sociopath, which is a memoir by Patrick Gagne, which I think is how you pronounce their name. And I believe this is just essentially about a sociopath in real life, but a sociopath that doesn't like actually commit any crimes or anything like that, but just growing up, their experience of like people realizing there's a little something off with them. So that's really intriguing to me. So I may read this instead. I think what I'm gonna do is listen to a little bit of the audiobook, like just a snippet, to see how I feel about the audio narration. And if I like it, then I think that'll be the next book that I read for this vlog. But we'll see. When I come back and talk to you guys again, you guys will know which book that I am reading. But you know, this is a mood reading vlog, so it really is whatever my mood is telling me I want to read, and right now I just don't know. But until then, one thing that does kind of help me really get out of a reading slump is watching other people read. So I'm gonna watch some booktube and just rest for a little while because I'm tired, just from the weekend in general, but also from just driving so much today. So we'll get some rest and then we'll come back and we'll do some reading. Has anybody else's allergies just been giving them a good uppercut 1-2 recently? Because I rarely wear my glasses, but I feel like I've been wearing them non-stop because anytime my allergies act up, my contacts also just don't want to be in my eyes, and so I'm suffering. What I'm not struggling with is Sociopath. This book is actually really surprising me, and I'm glad that I'm listening to it on audio. And so we're getting this firsthand account of Patrick and how when she was growing up, she obviously didn't have a word to associate herself with when it came to like her lack of emotion and some of her thoughts and some of her impulses. But we really get an insight into some of those thoughts when she was younger and how she would deal with some of her impulses. For example, she said that she would get this like tightness in her chest when she wouldn't do certain things, and those certain things could be like stealing a car or possibly hurting someone or something, and that tightness wouldn't release until she did one of those things. And so when she was younger, she could understand human emotion and why people were having the reactions that they were, but she realized she just wasn't having those reactions unless she faked it. So right now I'm only about 30% of the way in, and where we're at in the story, she's in college and she's kind of learning how to mirror people and mimic emotions to kind of just like blend in a little better, because up until this point people have spotted that something is different in her. But I am enjoying just like kind of like the humanization of Sociopath. So I think a lot of the times when we think of a sociopath, we think of, you know, a serial killer or, you know, just like a criminal. But, you know, there are people out there who are sociopaths and aren't like mass murderers. So it's really interesting to get that perspective, and I'm curious to see how like the story progresses and like how her viewpoint on sociopathy progresses, how her relationships progress as well. So I'm really enjoying this. The audiobook narration is top tier as well. But before I finish that, I have a bunch of book mail that I've been meaning to open. So I have 7 books. I think most of these are from Simon & Schuster. So I figured we'd just do a little book haul really quickly. And I probably should have already opened these. So give me a second, please. The first one is A Better World by Sarah Langan. Seems like a woman moves her family to this wealthy neighborhood, and there's some secrets lying around in the town. Her family isn't reacting well to moving there. Her kids become secretive. She starts asking questions, and people are like, don't ask them questions, girl. Stop that. I am familiar with this one. This is My Black Country, A Journey Through Country Music's Black Past, Present, and Future. And this one was interesting to me because I feel like there has been a rise of country music recently and Black people in that space. Obviously with Beyonce's new album, I feel like it's been talked about very heavily. See, and then we have The Rule of Three by Sam Ripley, which comes out in August. And this is a thriller about this curse called the Rule of Three, where essentially bad things happen in threes, and I think our main character is realizing that it may be true. It's happening to his friend, and now it's about to happen to him. And the book also says it's coming for you too. And then we have a throwback, which I feel like is almost a rite of passage in the Black community. Like when you ask a lot of people like, oh, have you read any books by a Black author? This book comes up a lot, and that's The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Souljah. And I think I actually used to have a copy of this, but then I lent it to a friend, but I haven't actually read it. So I did request it because it is the 25th anniversary of the book. And so I know this is about like a young woman who grows up in New York. Her family is like some wealthy drug dealers, but something comes along and she really has to put her street smarts to use, her seduction to use. So yeah, I'm interested to finally get into that, and I'm glad that I have a special edition. Okay, we have 3 more books to open. I was really just saving this for you guys. 4 of these have been just sitting in the package for like 2 or 3 weeks, so that's my bad. And then we have At the End of Every Day by Ariana Richey. And this is about a theme park where the employees start to go missing, and then a famous person actually dies at the theme park, and so they're closing the theme park down. But because there is all of these missing people, there's just like this ominous feeling around the theme park, and they're trying to figure out why or like what's actually going on. All right, and then we have The Chateau by Jacqueline Goldis. And as I was reading the back of this, I'm actually really excited about this. It's about a girl and a group of friends who go and visit one of their grandmothers at the chateau, and they get like a mysterious invitation to come back to the chateau, and it turns out they all have a different reason for wanting to return, but then one of the girls die, and after the death a mysterious Instagram account pops up that is cataloging all of their whereabouts and movement throughout the weekend at the chateau. It's giving Gossip Girl. It's giving the writing retreat a little bit that I really liked, with, you know, having a group of women all in one place and like one person dying and figuring out what's going on. So I'm excited for this one, and it says that this was actually published in 2023. So I think the publisher just sent me a paperback version of this, so it's already out if that sounds interesting to you. And then last up we have The President's Lawyer by Lawrence Robbins. This says it comes out in October. And so this is a high stakes legal thriller that follows a man who his best friend is actually the president of the United States, but he ends up having to be his lawyer because he gets accused of killing a woman. And so I really do tend to like legal thrillers, especially if part of it takes place in like a courtroom. So that's why I requested this, because this sounds like it'll be something that I really enjoy. Yeah, that is my little book haul, and I will see you guys soon when I am further along in Sociopath. All right, so it's currently 4:45 a.m. on Friday, and the only reason I'm up is because I'm about to catch a flight. I am going to Vegas for the Lovers and Friends Festival, which has so many good artists I've been wanting to see. The lineup is actually insane. So I'm gonna take you guys along as I finish up Sociopath. So hopefully by the time I get back, I should be done with that and we can wrap this up. But I figured I'd take you guys on one last adventure. I feel like I've just been the worst vlogger ever, because I don't think I got a single clip of when I was in Vegas. But to be fair, one, I was only there for 48 hours. Two, our plans didn't go as we thought. So I actually went to Vegas to go to the Lovers and Friends Festival, but it got canceled while we were there. It literally got canceled 12 hours before the festival was supposed to start due to high winds. And so I had planned to vlog a bit at the festival, but because it got canceled, I think one, I was just a little distraught, and then two, we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do instead that day. But I still had an amazing time. You know, you have to make the best of situations sometimes, and it's like we're in Vegas, so there's plenty to do. But yeah, I didn't get a single clip, and not gonna lie, I'm still a little hurt. Like, I was gonna see Usher, the Backstreet Boys. Ew. I was gonna get to see Ashanti pregnant. Majid Jordan is another one of my favorites. Like, literally, the lineup was crazy. Crazy. But you know, life happens and we move on. But I did finish Sociopath. And you know, I said this before, but this book really surprised me. I think it was really well done. So, you know, we get an insight into an actual sociopath, how she thinks, what it was like for her growing up, and how she actually worked through being in relationships with people, how she worked through just like interacting with people, being a sociopath. Also, kind of just like debunking some of the stigmas around the only representation that she ever saw was like serial killers and people in jail, and you know, that there are a lot of people and a big percentage of the population that are sociopaths. I believe she had said that 5% of the population are sociopaths. So that was really interesting. And there was a lot of like research done. And Patrick Gagne is a PhD, I believe, in psychology. And she was like a psychologist for other people with sociopathy. And so all of that was just really interesting. And to learn that in like the actual guide that psychologists pull from to diagnose people, sociopathy actually isn't in there. Like, you can be a psychopath, and then the equivalent to being a sociopath is like antisocial something, but being a sociopath isn't actually something that they usually diagnose now. So that's something that I think she's working on trying to get fixed, and just kind of working on the stigma around that. You know, but after reading Bright Young Women, and I was kind of thinking about like true crime, I feel like this book on being a sociopath is what I've actually craved from true crime this whole time, about like how someone's mind actually works. So I highly recommend this if, you know, you're interested in psychology, if you have been someone who's interested in true crime and you're just more interested in the fact of like why people make the decisions they make and like how their brain works, then I would definitely recommend this as well. I feel like I don't give nonfiction, especially like someone's memoir, a rating because it's their life, but I think because of the way that it was done and the way that it was written and the types of things that you learn from it, I am going to give it a 5-star. I will say though, I was so intrigued by this author and this story that I did do some Googling, because she did mention she used to work for a record label, and there's someone famous that she kind of had like a friendship slash relationship with. And so I was trying to use my little detective skills to try to figure it out. And I have an idea in my mind, right? But it took some Googling. And as I was Googling her, there's a lot of like Reddit threads talking about like, is her degree real, this and that. But I don't want to get into the whole discourse of people second guessing her credentials based on her diagnosis, right? Because some of the comments I was reading, I'm like, y'all clearly didn't read the book also. And the fact that she is an author and she's putting her life out there, there are probably some things that she has had scrubbed from the internet. So, you know, you not being able to find her degree or a log of all the hours she's done is probably normal. But what do I know? I'm just here reviewing books and I recommend this one. But you know, overall, I feel like this mood reading vlog really did what I needed it to do. Granted, I didn't take you guys along on everything the way that I would have loved to, but I feel like being in a reading slump, sometimes you just have to step away from, you know, reading, creating, whatever you need to do, trying new things, traveling, whatever, to get out of a reading slump. And I feel like that's what I had to do. And so I know this video was a little clunky, but it works because I'm officially out of my reading slump. I'm ready to get back into it, which means that I will hopefully also be ready to give you the content that I want to give you as well. But if you made it to the end of this video, leave a mountain or like a hill emoji because we've gotten over the hump of the reading slump. And if you guys made it to the end of this video, you are my absolute favorite. I really appreciate you hanging in there with me, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.